Okay, this is Math-7 percent review packet, page 7. I want to talk about a few problems here, and this is number 7. Okay, so you need to estimate 26% of 80. Okay, so 26% of 80. 26% is really close to 25%. Okay, so we're going to use 25% as our benchmark. Okay, and then 25% is 1/4. So in other words, if you want to estimate 25% of 80, you are trying to find out what 1/4 of 80 is. And 1/4 of 80 is the same as 80 divided by 4. And 80 divided by 4 gives you 20. Okay, so it means that 26% of 80 is approximately 20. Okay, so let me write my conclusion. Therefore, 26% of 80 is approximately, so this double squiggly meaning approximate. So it's approximately 20. Okay? Okay, so now we estimate 12% of 38. Okay, so there are two ways to do it, and I'm just going to do the shorter way. Okay, so 12%, and I will use 10% to estimate. And you know, your packet says you could also round 38 to a convenient number like 40. But you know, when you use 10%, you don't really need to do that. So let me show you. Okay, so now you're trying to find 10% of 38. Well, 10% of 38 is the same as 38 divided by 10. Okay, so you can just do it with using mental math. When you do 10% divided by, 38 divided by 10, it's like moving the decimal point over to the left side like once. So one place over. So that means this is 3.8. Okay, so now you have an estimate. And it's just as easy as doing 40 divided by 10 and you get 4, and 3.8 is more accurate than 4. So I'll just use 3.8. So let's write our conclusion. Therefore, 12% of 38 is approximately 3.8. Okay? Now we are on to number 11. Estimate a 15% tip for a $60 bill. Okay, so, well, I know your packet will probably say to round it to a convenient number, so it will be 20%, but 20% is a little off. So, you know, 15% is actually pretty easy to do, and I'm going to show you. And we're just going to use mental math. Okay, so 15% is 10% plus 5%. Okay, so now we just have to figure out 10% of 60 and then 5% of 60 and then add them up. Okay, so 10% of 60 is $6 because 60 divided by 10 gives you 6. So this is $6. And then 5% of 60, okay, it might seem trickier, but then you already have $6 here. 6 is 10%. 5% is half of 10%. So you do 6 divided by 2. So 6 divided by 2, and then you get 3. So 5% of 60 gives you $3. So in other words, 15% of 60 is going to be 6 plus 3. which is 9. So a 15% tip is $9. Okay, so let me write this down. Therefore, 15% tip equals $9. Okay? Okay, next problem. This is number 15. Estimate a 6% tip for a $50 bill. Well, 6% is kind of cheap. Well, anyway, let's just still do it. Okay, so since I want to stick with estimation here this time, so I'm going to round both 6% and 54 to convenient numbers. So we can just do this problem in our head and estimate. Okay, so 6%, I'm going to round this up to 10%. And then for $54, since, well, $54 is closer to $50 than $60, and especially we already rounded up the percent here, so we may want to round the dollar part down. Okay, so now you're just trying to look for 10%. So find 10% of 50. And you don't need me to tell you how. This is super easy. It's the same as 50 divided by 10, which is 5. Okay, so a 6% tip is approximately $5. So let's write down the conclusion. Therefore, this cheap person is paying about $5 for a 6% tip. Okay, so I think you can finish the rest on your own. This page is not really that hard. Just make sure you read all the directions from the previous pages. They are really helpful. Okay, so I'll see you the next day.